Good afternoon, everybody. It's Graham Coath. It's my music, and you're going to really, really enjoy this one this afternoon. I know I have already, because I've been speaking to my guest, Michael, this afternoon from the Galtsy Lee Street Choir. Stay tuned and find out a bit more. Especially, we're going to talk about real ale. What's better to talk about on a Friday afternoon?
Fantastic.
I need to get going, Mel. I'll see you later.
Michael, thanks for joining me. There's a gadget you might actually want to add to your collection of gadgets. Okay, that's called a neck stand.
Okay,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether you've ever seen one of those.
No.
But yeah, very, very good. I'll be
googling after.
Woo! Just like that.
Oh, super.
Just.
Are they available from all good retailers?
Yeah, go away. There we are. Yeah, so that's Siri, by the way.
Yeah,
it's a cheap alternative to Alexa. Anyway, there's this is a neck stand. You put your laptop in there, and the screen it's right up there, which is really good.
Super.
And it folds away like that, and then you clobber someone over the head with it. So we were talking just before we came on about beer, which was great because we were. I felt, look at this. Not only has this man got a great collection of records behind him, which we will talk about in a second,
my little gallery.
He starts showing me things that have come through his door about real ale. And here's one for you. We'll swap leaflets, right?
So should we do a virtual swap?
Okay,
hold on.
So you explain what you've got there.
I've got 10 great reasons to join camera. We were talking about a reputable online beer company, weren't we? Which is something to do with 52 weeks of the year and beer.
Absolutely.
Put it together.
And
other services are available.
Absolutely, including this one, which we'll just cover that bit there. So it's Brewcat or something like that.
BR Dog.
Yeah, BR Dog, and they've done this one with friends, which I thought was really quite good as well, because what they do is they send you some of the beer is theirs, and some of the beer is other breweries.
Oh, that's cool.
That's confidence, isn't it? That's confidence for you. Yeah. But you were talking to me about a local beer, which is Plum Porter.
Plum Porter.
Really sounds great.
Other supermarkets are available, but at the moment in the Big T supermarket, you can get 4 for £6, and I would recommend the Black Sheep Milk Stout and the Titanic Plum Porter. And once we've done this, obviously, and we send it out to Titanic Brewery, hopefully they might sponsor the Galtsy Lee Street Choir, all 2 of us, with a keg of beer each or something. So we'd be quite happy to do that.
That could be your rider, couldn't it? When you go live.
We're going to do the Titanic theme song as well. We're, not the not that one, but we're going to write a new one. Me and Russ on the front of a ship, and me looking like Kate Winslet with the long flowing beard, obviously.
So, what I generally talk to people about on these things is where you started in music and your inspirations and your what really pushed you along the journey, as it were, along the years. And are any of those records that you've got behind you there, sir, instrumental in where you ended up today?
Well, I think the one on the top, that side, which I did get here, is my original copy of King's the Wild Frontier by Adam and the Ants. So I used to have a little summer job. My dad was a farm worker, and then the farmer used to employ kind of me and my sister and some friends over the summer to plough the fields and, real child labour. And he'd give us like a little brown wage packet at the end of the week, and there'd be like £10 in it. So I cycled to my local Woolworths and I bought 2 records, and I think they were both about £3.99 each on my Rally Bomber, trying not to break them on the way back. And I bought the first Duran Duran album and the Adam and the Ants album. Now, Duran Duran, so this was 1981, so I was 11 years old. Duran Duran were from down the road in Birmingham. And I obviously thought, well, they're pop stars, but they're not that far away. Maybe I could do something like that. and even though that has never happened, it felt like it was real. It felt like it was something, we had Midlands Today, which was like a local program, and the guys were on there. And I mean, growing up, the radio was always on in the house when we were kids. So I remember at the age of like 3 or 4 hearing and kind of hearing things like Slade and Roxy Music. And I remember watching a Top of the Pops with Roxy Music on. That's one of my best memories. And Slade obviously doing Merry Christmas, everybody. But we had kind of a record player in the house, and there was kind of the Beatles Blue and Red album. And I always I didn't like the pop stuff. I liked the psychedelic stuff, when I was a kid. And my dad said, well, do you want a Beatles album for your birthday? And so I said, dive straight in. I asked him to buy me the White Album, which isn't the easiest of Beatles albums to 40 songs, 38 songs or whatever when you're like a 12-year-old kid. But we had kind of Johnny Cash, Elvis, Burt Bacharach, Andy Williams, Nat King Cole, all of these kind of great songs and great singers. So I think that was kind of my education. And then I'd probably be about 10 years old, like I say. And I remember seeing like Bowie on Kenny Everett doing like Space Oddity, I think it was. And Ashes to Ashes. I'm not one of those kids who can say I saw Starman on Top of the Pops, because I'm like 6 or 7 years too young. Do you see what I mean? But I remember seeing, the video to Ashes, and I kind of loved all the singles on that album. Didn't buy them at the time.
I think Ashes to Ashes. I think that was actually probably my first Bowie experience.
Yeah,
I was born in 71.
Well, I'm 1970, so we're kind of
exactly.
I mean,
so yeah, you're right. That first period was lost, but it was that next period of Bowie, wasn't it? Really? And I mean, that video, amazing.
Superb. Yeah, I mean, I was watching the Blitzed film the other day, the story of the Blitz, Rusty Egan and all that sort of stuff. And when Bowie went to Blitz, and he picked 3 or 4 people out the crowd, obviously like Steve Strange out of Visage, to be in the video. So that's worth a really good watch. And my good friend Rusty Egan will thank me for that. But Adam Ant was really my pop star, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I remember watching Dog Eat Dog on Top of the Pops, and I think it was October or November 1980 or something like that. And this guy came on the screen with all this war paint on, with kind of 2 drummers, with this fantastic sound. And it still gives me shivers now, like literally Kings of the Wild Frontier and stuff like that. It was just like a brilliant album. And it kind of showed you that there was still kind of glamour within music as well. So, and then we had the fantastic period of the 1980s with, things like, I was into like quite a lot of electronic stuff. So things like Japan, Associates, Talking Heads. But then on the other side, loved kind of like the Liverpool Manchester thing with kind of Joy Division, Echo and the Bunnymen, Teardrop Explodes, War. Then you've got the Cure, the Star Council, the Smiths, REM, blah blah blah. Like every week there'd be, you'd be looking through smash hits or.
We have definitely got to get together for a point at some point, because do you know what?
We will do when this opens up. Definitely.
The synergy is amazing. It sounds like you've gone through exactly the same experience as me. Just several miles away. When was the first time you got into a band, or you were started dabbling with music with mates?
Well, this all ties in with Ghosty Lee, because so Russ was he was in a local band. He's 4 years older, so he was like 19 and I was 15 when we kind of met each other. But he was in this local band and they were called Soul Exit. I think they were like a 6-7 piece, like brass section, and they did this, like, they used to do this amazing kind of soul funk version of Day in the Life by the Beatles. Do you know what I mean? Like,
really? Wow.
Like really kind of like, it would be kind of like, I suppose, like Pig Bag, those kind of elements, but Haircut 100, that sort of thing. And they were fantastic. And so this is where we kind of both born in Burntwood. And they supported King. You remember King, Love and Pride?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. Well, we had a local venue where we were, and it was called the Burnt. This is almost going into Jasper Carrot territory now, called Burntwood Baths. It was the Burntwood Recreation Centre, and obviously the bands didn't play in the pool. There was a function room upstairs, so there was like a local DJ, Pete McKenzie, who was quite a bit wily, and he booked King twice. Once before, like they'd just released Love and Pride the first time, and there was about 20 people at this gig. But he had fortunately, he booked them for January 1985 when they were number 2 in the charts. So he'd done like a second booking with them. And literally Russ's band, Soul Exit, I'd been following them for like a few months as a local band. There was quite a vibrant local scene. There was bands 2020 Vision, Falling Boys. There was like a really good, everybody wanted to be in a band. It was one of those things. And but like I say, they were all kind of about 4 years older than I was. So literally I did a tape cassette, and on one side was the Pale Fountains from Across the Kitchen Table, who are like really loved, and Dexter's Midnight Runners, Don't Stand Me Down, the album that never sold, if you see what I mean. And so I was like, and after Russ had played with King, the band had played with King, I was like, they were doing a gig in Manchester, and I was like, and it was the International venue, owned by the Stone Roses manager then, Gareth, whatever his name was. And I've got to go to this gig, even if I like carry the guitars or carry the amps and stuff like that. And I think I was 15 at the time, so I kind of walked up Ghosty Lee, which is a road in Burntwood, literally just round the corner from where I lived, with this tape in my hand, and I knocked on Russ's door. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you're Michael, aren't you?" And I was like, he was like, "Do you want to come in for a cup of tea?" I was like, "Oh, I've made you this tape," and he played that tape all summer. And he was like, "Do you want to come to the gig then?" So I ended up going in the van with the band to the gig. There was excuse me.
Hold on, folks.
It's CBS Records trying to get hold of me. Sorry about that. Hold on. I don't want to sign the deal. I don't want to sign it.
No, he's waiting on it. He's waiting on an independent.
Yeah, of course we are. So there was another guy in the band Soul Exit called Paul Butler, and unfortunately, the rest of Soul Exit didn't get on with Paul, and they kicked Paul out. And then Paul came round to my house when I was 16 and said, "Do you want to form a band with me?" And I was kind of like, "Yeah, that'd be great." Do you know what I mean? And I was kind of into, writing, and I'd kind of bought a guitar, and I was, won a creative writing prize at school, I think, for poems and stuff like that. So I was always kind of handy with the quill. So basically 1986 we got in a band. Well, the two of us formed a band called The Great Divide. And at the age of 17, I played my first gig at a place called the Barrel Organ in Birmingham, which was quite a famous venue. Loads of people had played there. And that's basically how it started. And
well, you did really well. I mean, at that age, to come up with a band name that was actually really good.
Well, it was actually stolen from Simple Minds, Book of Brilliant Things.
There you go.
And then we found out after that that there was another band signed to Ensign Records called The Great Divide, who actually then turned into the band called The Bible.
Yeah.
Remember The Bible?
Yeah, I do.
Hewardine.
Yeah.
And their ex-drummer kept ringing us up saying, when are you going to change your name? Because I own The Great Divide. And we were like, ta-ra, mate, off you go. But The Great Divide lasted from 1986 up to about 1994, 95. And
which is a long tenure.
Yeah, over this period of time, we were kind of doing hundreds of gigs. We did BBC sessions. We did our own promotions where we used to bring bands in and they would headline and we would support. We were doing quite big gigs, literally paying for demo time, studio time. And then we got to the point where every couple of months we'd go in the studio and record songs and then send them to labels. And then I've got a really funny letter from London Records signed by Well Hard, who's obviously the dog from EastEnders. I'll get it out at some point. It's in my little box of tricks down here. London Records saying that they didn't want to sign us, and we had people coming up to the studios, and it never quite happened because people, because the guys in the band were all realistically, when we started 4 years older than me, they started to kind of get careers, wives, kids, and we were flitting between Manchester and London most months, playing gigs, doing showcases. And then it came to the point where the whole band literally over that period was changed. There was only myself that was the original member. And so I then started kind of a new thing. And then that went on for a couple of years to 1998. But at that point, we were doing some very interesting things because we had like our own studio and we were working with Terry Hall, who wasn't in the specials at the time, but was on his own. Right. And like demoing stuff with Terry. We were on the same management company. And we did shows with people like Travis. Previous to that, we'd done stuff with people like In Spiral Carpets. But then, unfortunately, 1998, my dad passed away, and it sort of knocked the wind out of my sails for a fair few years.
As it does, yeah.
So I did a little project in about 2002 with just some friends. We just like did an album together. Then my son was born, who's 18 in about 2 weeks. And I went into a period of 14 years of inertia of kind of not doing anything whatsoever. Then it was kind of... Did
you still get the guitar out occasionally?
No, not at all. The guitar was like in the corner. There's another guitar in the corner at the moment, but I literally would pick the guitar up, probably play like a G or a C chord or something,
and then put it away again.
Put it back. I just had no inclination to. I couldn't write. I was completely, blocked in one way, and was kind of. I mean, that's why the whole thing, the Gorsty Lee shebang with Russ is kind of, quite amazing in one way, because he was the catalyst in the first place for kind of me getting into a band. And then at his 50th birthday 5 years ago this summer, he said to me, I've got a studio in the garage and stuff, and he continued to do loads of stuff over the years. So this is a chap who's probably got about 1,000 unreleased songs. So good luck with that, anybody. So he just said to me, do you want to do some music? And I said no, straight away. Right. I said, I can't do that thing anymore. And a mutual friend of ours kind of badgered me a couple of weeks before the Christmas in 2016. Russ was kind of doing a gig and said, do you know what? Russ is doing a gig. You should really go and, just go to the gig and bring your guitar. And I was like, no.
Did you go? You went?
Well, I went round to Russ's house 2 days before the gig,
right,
with my guitar. And I said, "Oh, I've learnt a couple of songs." So I'd learned kind of this very strange version of Bowie, "Let's Dance," which we might hear at some point, almost like a crazy bossa nova type version, which sounds really cool actually. And another track that we both mutually liked.
You need to buy a Bon Tempi for that, don't you?
Well, yeah. Don't joke.
It's a bit don't remember Bon Tempis. They were these organs with a fan. Yeah, I had one. Right. Awful.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's like John Shuttleworth. Pigeons in flight.
Dum, dum, dum,
Let's
dum,
dance.
Dum, 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 dum,
Put on your red shoes and dance
dum,
the blues.
Brilliant.
It's going to be a worldwide smash. Trust us.
It will.
So literally, Russ said to me, "Just come up and play in the second half," and it was just a local pub, very close to our hearts and near to us geographically, and we I just kind of got up for a couple of songs, and it was like really great. And then he said, "Just stay up with me," and this was kind of the week before Christmas as well, so he just kind of got the guitar out and was doing loads of really cool tunes and loads of Christmas stuff and things like that. And that's basically when Ghosty Lee was born. The landlord came up to us afterwards with a, don't tell the tax man, with a packet of money, and he went, "Boys, that was absolutely brilliant. When are you doing it again?" And we were like, "Oh, should we do it next month?" It was just literally that quick. And
well, that's
the
best way, isn't it?
Choir was born.
Oh, that's the best way, though.
Yeah,
that's the best way. That's a fantastic story. Thanks for sharing that with us. Because
my wife loves it. It gets her off to sleep every night. She's like, "Oh, tell me the story about you and Russ." And for any insomniacs out there, I can do a little tape for you. And the story's been retold quite a lot of times, though.
This will be available on Audible as a
audiobook, narrated by Stephen Fry or Cillian Murphy in his Peaky Blinders accent. So we started playing like gigs 2017, just doing like a gig a month, a little bit of a bit of beer money, not playing any original songs. And then I think within a few months we kind of started like exchanging ideas. Russ sent me a track that literally is being mixed at the moment by Mr. George Schilling, who we'll come on to. But so he demoed this track and then he sent it to me, and I was like, "Mate, people need to hear that. It's absolutely amazing." So over the period of kind of 2017, 2018, we sort of demoed about sort of like 25 tracks in the garage. And then we got a friend of ours, Gavin Monaghan, who's worked with kind of like Ocean Colour Scene, Editors, Robert Plant, like all of these. We used to record analog with Gavin in the old days, and both our separate bands would have gone into Gavin's studio in Wolverhampton. And we just sent Gavin a track that we'd done, and he's like, "Okay, when you're going to come in then? When are you going to start? When are we going to do an album? When are we going to work together?" That type of thing. And I suppose that was just kind of, again, it was sort of like the lift that we sort of needed at that point, because we can record and engineer stuff, but we're not kind of producers or mixers. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Something really valid I've learned just over the past 3 or 4 years is kind of collaboration with the right people at the right times. So, bringing people like Gavin in, and then we did kind of the first track that we put out. Well, the first track that anybody heard was a track called Lions that we did. And that was actually for a friend of ours who'd passed away the previous summer. And we just kind of wanted to dedicate this a track to him. He was a really beautiful soul, and unfortunately like passed away when he was 48. But it's a real kind of upbeat sort of like indie track. And BBC Introducing picked up on it. So it was basically on his birthday. Now, this is kind of like how things work. On his birthday, July the 6th, we got an email back from the BBC saying we're going to play your track next week. And this was on Lenny's birthday, our friend. So it was kind of like the gods were like looking down on us. So we recorded a couple of tracks, sent them to the BBC. Both of them got played on BBC Introducing. And then we released a track. Officially, the first track we released was a track called The British Isles, which we released in October, on October the 31st, 2019, because that was supposed to signal Brexit.
Yeah.
And The British Isles isn't a political track. It was just kind of asking kind of like, what's
Questions.
going on type thing, questions. Yeah. And there's a speech by Joe Strummer on it that we stole. That you exemplify. People have very kindly allowed us to use up until this point. But Six Music picked up on that. So here we are, a guy at the age of 49 and a guy at the age of 53 getting national airplay from basically just sending a track where any thoughts of that happening, those thoughts didn't even enter our mind. We're just kind of writing songs for ourselves, doing kind of gigs once a month, playing other people's songs, but playing other people's songs has inspired us to write our own songs. And so we're just on this journey. And
what do you think it is? I mean, what do you think it is in the kind of general landscape of music in this given time that's kind of almost perpetuating this? Because I'm speaking to you today. I've, in the last few months, I've interviewed people like Daniel Takes a Train, who were around back in the day. Several other artists that were around back in the day that, then they got on with the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Coming back with a resurgence, if you like. And it's just like, I mean, to me, being in the same thing myself, I was in a band. I did all of that, etc. I've had my children. They're growing up, etc. I'm writing something at the moment with someone. There's fantastic. Yeah, but what is it? I think it's you get past that point where you go,
I'm going to grab a record. And,
do that. I think you get past that point where you go, this isn't a midlife crisis. I don't need to get back into music because it's a midlife crisis.
I blame this man.
Oh, Paul Weller.
Mr. Paul Weller.
Yeah, because he just kept going, didn't he?
Yeah, but since he released kind of 22 Dreams, which is like this, everybody spoke about his purple period, which is like the second phase of, well, for him, it's his third phase, or isn't it really? Yeah. Well, no, he's not stopped phasing all the way through this. Let's face it, because to me, the Style Council were absolutely amazing, and now they're getting the dues because the Jam fans hated. I was too young to really love the Jam. I love the Style Council, and then you look at Wildwood, Stanley Road, Bowie, and Paul Weller. They did it to us because they showed that. Because when we were kids, there was nobody really old doing music. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying, so even the Stones would have only have been in their 40s, maybe. I don't know, when we were kids. Yeah. So you've actually seen the progression of like a musical career. When we were younger, you'd have had like the old blues guys, like John Lee Hooker, B.B. King, but to a lot of us, that music wouldn't have really spoke to us because it's from like a different generation. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And then when you have bands like, even like bands like U2 that have been together for like 40 odd years now, and the guys that you were told as a kid you had to get a job, you had to not have dreams, you had to forget about creativity, you had to look after your family. There was this indoctrination, almost, quite religious. This is what you do. This is your path in life. I would say like writing music, writing words is like akin to breathing. So if I can't do that, And and I had that period of inertia for like 14 years or so when I didn't write, and as soon as I did that first kind of gig with Russ, I knew I'd missed out on something. I didn't feel bad that I'd missed out on something. I just thought I need to do this again.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the light that goes on with a lot of people. I was never like a bedroom hobbyist in one way. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like let's just see if we can.
Also, we all, by the sound of things, we all got into music really early, didn't we? I mean, in our lives, we got into music really early. I mean, I was 14 when I was in my first band.
Wow, that's good.
And I think if you're in music from a young age, and you've kind of like you grow up in it and with it, then and suddenly it's like, well, there's other things that are important as well, and it's not that you forget music, but you have to divert into some of those other things for a bit, but I don't think it ever leaves you completely. And I think it's maybe it's about just the opportunity and the time to suddenly the right time comes around. But you're right about both those artists, Bowie and Weller. I mean, there's loads of other artists, isn't there? Whether you look at like Springsteen, Neil Young, Bob Dylan, all those kind of guys. But those are the. I mean, and I love Springsteen as well, and and then but
even
Weller,
guys like
you're
Cage
right
and
about
like
Weller.
That, but
Weller, I've always admired his work ethic. I mean, it's just it's unreal, really. And he's always stayed in completely real to himself as well in terms of what he's doing.
Yeah, there's that kind of artistic integrity, isn't there? And I think with myself and Russ, we've just kind of like said, well, if we enjoy it, if we like it, then maybe a few other people will like it too. So we're not writing like he'll send me a song or I'll send, whichever way it works, whether we do something together separately and then contribute, all those kind of things. And he's like, just says to me, well, if you like it, it's done. And I'm like, mate. But I think other people should hear this.
That's another thing. I think that's another thing that's quite in common actually with both Bowie and Weller. And particularly with, I mean, he's just released Fat Pop, hasn't he? But
it's
I think what's real, it is, and I think what's quite interesting is maybe in some of what you were saying as well is that traditionally in the past, a lot of musicians, as they got older, stylistically, they got older.
Yeah,
that's true, isn't it? Yeah,
it is.
Whereas now, what we're actually seeing is we're seeing people who, as they get older, are going old disgracefully, and actually,
I think with somebody like Weller, you look at the guys who play with him. There's Ben and Andy who play like are in the Moons, which young band. Steve Craddock, even Ocean Colours. He puts a really good group of musicians, collaborators around him, even though his name is on the tin. It's the same with Bowie with like with Black Star, with that album when he got all those jazz guys involved. I can't remember the names now, so that'll kill me later. But those guys. But you looked at Bowie from kind of Heathen onwards, from like 2000, and there's like a run of albums there which are all kind of like fantastic again. So it's somebody just creating within their space and creating some magical. When The Next Day came out and you heard the first track, Where Are We Now, whatever, and it was very moody, very sort of like, oh god, his voice sounded really old, like an old Sinatra or something. And then the next thing he comes out was like The First Day or The Stars Are Here Tonight, and it was just like boom, we're back in there. He kind of sucker punched us.
He fooled us, didn't he? He did fool us there. Yeah. We all thought, oh my goodness, he's got old, but he hadn't.
Yeah.
He was just
not at all.
No,
God rest his soul. So I mean, it was kind of one of those situations of like, in one way the stars aligning with the, you know, with kind of me and Russ meeting up and then talking through things. And then I think because we were in separate bands as well when we were kids, and the one person who brought us together, Paul Butler, never really allowed us to be in a band together. Me and Russ secretly demoed a song when I was about 18, 19. We're going to look for that song and try and find it because we did it on like a 4-track cassette. And he's been up in the loft and he's found some of these cassettes where he'd collaborate with with people and with other friends and stuff like that. So it was just kind of like an opportunity to go out and play some songs with your friend, and from that, all of the, you know, the ghosty stuff has prevailed. So yeah,
what I'm really pleased about, Michael, what I'm really pleased about there is that we're talking about cassettes, and nowadays youngsters actually understand what we're talking about again because they're making a comeback. So that's great.
It's come full circle again, hasn't it? So
I know. I used to have to gather together me pocket money. I used to go to an audio shop in Bedford and buy an 8-pack of the Maxell tapes with the really good quality XL Maxell tapes. Yeah. Ferrous oxide or something.
The ones that Pete Murphy out of Bauhaus used to.
Yeah, that's it. They're really heavy. When you got them out of the packet, you almost you feel the quality of it. Yeah. I love all of that. So tell me a little bit about the single, because otherwise, we'll get in trouble. Bluebird Hollywood Domino. So interesting title. Where did that come from?
It came from the fact that we were just talking about like opportunities, like when we were kids, the missed opportunity, the bluebird, you kind of like, the idealism.
Yeah.
Hollywood is where it all fails, and dominoes is where you get burned. So basically that's the process of kind of going through life's tribulations and aspiring, dreaming, failing, picking yourself back up and starting again over again. And that's kind of like the analogy. And we just kind of put it together and it sounded great. So
it does sound great. It sounds, it's a very, very big song.
Thank you.
In terms of sound. I love that,
Yeah.
And you had some help with that, as we were saying earlier, from
Mark,
from Ride.
We kind of demoed the track. The track was kind of totally demoed in the garage at home, and all kind of instruments played by ourselves. We did a couple of overdubs with our friend Gavin, and then Gavin actually did the mix on this one. He did a superb job on the mix, but basically the secret is in kind of probably the last 5%. And we sent that to our good friend Mark Gardner from the band Ride, who's a lovely chap who I've got to know over the last few years. And
I keep hearing. So I'm hopefully at some point I might get to speak to him myself, because he does sound like a lovely chap.
He's a great bloke, and he's from the same kind of school era age as ourselves. And like we were saying previously, we talk about the same music. We listen to the same things. Mark's been doing so much kind of work for us recently on mastering mixes and stuff like that. On one of the tracks on the previous EP, Saint Marie, that got picked up by Tom Robinson on Six Music as well. Right. I was talking to Mark about Scott Walker, about It's Raining Today. There's like a string line, which is very kind of Hitchcock, very Bernard Herrmann. And I was like, mate, can you put some strings on the track? So I sent him the track, and he did like some live strings on the track. And then that was the version that was released on EP1. So to have Mark, and literally I sent Mark the song and I said, I don't know whether this is good enough, mate. Because there's a lot of procrastination there. When you haven't really released anything for 20 years and everything that you've released before that has miserably failed, you just kind of go, do we need to give it to anybody? Do you know what I mean? And Mark kind of listened to the song and he said, guys, the song is amazing. Put the strings on, mastered it. And I'm like, what should we do then? Should we mix it again? Should we add a little bit of this? Should we add a bit of that? And he was like, Michael, just stop. It's ready to go. So it's kind of like the Greyhounds. Do you know what I mean?
You really need that though, don't you? You need someone with a pair of ears like that you trust.
Yeah.
The
rabbit has gone.
Slap you around the face, Michael. Go.
You know what I mean?
Get this out. Come on.
Yeah. I think little things like BBC introducing, picking up on the tracks, BBC Six Music picking up on the British Isles, and then going, Mark beginning to master the tracks as well. It just kind of brings a little, we're dragging this massive rock behind us, and it's got the letters hope inscribed into it, like the KLF, through the pandemic. So Mark's given us a lot of confidence, and then we've recently been working with the legend that is George Schilling, who at the age of 21 had a worldwide hit with Yaz and the Plastic Population. But in my mind, he's better known for Teenage Fan Club, Primal Scream, Kowalski, Bernard Butler, Frank Turner, Mike Oldfield, all these kind of and George is somebody that I've got to know over the last few years as well. Yeah. And I just started sending him some mixes for the new kind of mini album that's coming out. So there's 4 original tracks on there. And George put a bit of cello on the first track, and George is a classically trained cello player. Oh, mate, when he sent the mix, I was, it was kind of like close. Yeah. The eyes, there was something in my eyes, do you know what I mean? And
it's always lovely, isn't it, when you work with these musicians of that caliber? You just, you just watch them for a start, and you just go, "Oh my goodness, yeah."
Well, totally because we've done all this remotely, over lockdown, we haven't, I haven't seen George. I've spoken to him on the phone, I've sent him mixes, and then we've been working with another friend up in Leeds as well, a guy called Choc Hussain, and he was in a band in the 90s called the Hollow Men. He then went and formed a collective called Black Star Liner, which kind of brings it a bit back to Bowie, I suppose. But Black Star Liner were nominated for like the Mercury Music Prize in 2000.
Yeah, I remember that.
Asian kind of fusion.
Yeah.
Done loads of, and he's worked with kind of like The Grid, Dave Ball out of Soft Cell, loads and loads of people. So here's funny thing. So I'm going to grab Choc.
If you're listening on Spotify, you can't see this, but there we go.
This was the Hollow Men. And this is a brilliant single from the 90s called Pink Panther. And when I was in the Great Divide, when I was in that band, we got a chance to support the Hollow Men in Leeds at the Tufnell Park Dome. And the guys from Madness came along as well. This was like one of those nights when you're like, oh my God, Suggs and Chaz. So basically, I was like looking on the Tinterweb as you do, and I found Choc, and I just sent him a message going, "You probably don't remember me," and he was like, "Michael,
I do.
Are you doing that Ghosty Lee thing?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I've been reading about you because there was a few blog posts, going up before Christmas. There was a few like end of years where a couple of tracks had been voted, in like top 50s, top 100s or whatever." And he was like, "Send me some stems." And I was like, "We've done this track called Bluebird Hollywood." And I was like, "Why don't you put like a bit of an Asian twist to it and call it Bluebird Bollywood?" So in the space of the last 3 months, since the end of January, Choc has actually, I shouldn't be telling you this, but I'm going to because I like you. He's done 18 mixes for us.
Wow. 18.
18 tracks. So what we've got on Prince's Park, so we've called the first mini album From Prince's Park to Farsley. Prince's Park, if anybody wants to Wikipedia it, Prince's Park, Burntwood, is the smallest park in the Guinness Book of Records in the United Kingdom. Is this
your from Langsley Park to Memphis?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, from it's basically a little bit of a tribute to Prince and Prefab Sprout, who were again big favourites of ours. So we thought, let's plagiarise that, because I mean, let's face it, everything is plagiarised. So From Prince's Park, which had the world's smallest fun run as well in 2014. You can check it all out. We'll post some links afterwards. And
Marvelous.
Then Chock comes from Farsley in near Leeds. So From Prince's Park to Farsley was the perfect title. So on the mini album, you've got 4 original songs.
Yep.
And we'll be releasing another one next month. And then you've got 4 mixes that Chock has done of songs from the first EP. So all the tracks that we did on the first EP. But when I say mixes, they are like complete reimaginations. You won't even know that.
It's not like, just change.
It's not a remix, like a 4 to the floor, boom, 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 with a vocal over it.
Yeah, I've just put that beat over the top, or there's a cowbell every now and again.
Yeah,
no, it's
they're like complete
deconstructions.
I mean, like Future Sound of London, they have an offshore shoot called the Amorphous Androgynous, where they do kind of like loads of like psychedelic mixes of other people's songs. They've done them for like Oasis and Weller, and if you look at those guys. But that's basically how these tracks have started to sound. So the track that we released last year, From a Boy, which is a fairly pretty, I mean, I suppose it's got like the overtones of kind of like REM, Echo and the Bunnymen, the Decemberists, kind of like Arcade Fire, those kind of bands. The kind of the reimagination that Chock has done basically turns it into a kind of halftime, almost kind of dubstep meets Mogwai type song. Do you know what I mean?
Would you not want that?
Why? I mean, I'm digging Chock stuff more than ours, because I've heard our stuff for like 3 years. And the Saint Marie sounds like literally a cross between like the Stone Roses Waterfall and U2. I still haven't found what I'm looking for, with a bit of the Blue Nile. It's just like incredible. Do you know what I mean? So
you can tell in your other life that you go and sell stuff, sir, because you just sold that, haven't you?
Yeah, it's available from Bandcamp, £4, 8 tracks. You'd be stupid not to do it, kids.
Yeah, you would. Head over there now.
So I mean, having the ability to work with these people who, in my mind, are kind of geniuses. Do you know what I mean? Like real kind of people who understand, sound and sonic alchemy. I mean, that is like something that Chock understands, and he'll turn something like, when you hear the track Up with the Larks with George playing cello on it and this beautiful waltz time track, Chock's turned it into like an Uncle remix. Do you know what I mean? It's just like,
my word.
So
and when he's talking about uncle, folks, that that isn't your uncle.
That's not your uncle. That's uncle with a K, kids.
Yeah, it's uncle with a K. Go and check out Uncle if you've never heard of
James
Uncle.
Lavelle, DJ Shadow. So we're on this kind of interesting journey where we were just going to release a series of EPs, but now this series of EPs, because we have all these reimaginations and mixes, we're going to release a series of like mini albums. So the next kind of 4 releases potentially will be the rest of the tracks that we have recorded, that we're getting mixed, and then Chock's tracks as well. So it's going to be a busy couple of years, just releasing, getting these tracks out into the public domain, and then we might do an album. It's.
I was going to ask that. You knew that was coming as a question. Fortunately, it was, not as obvious as what's your favourite biscuit, but because I never asked that. Yeah, no, don't answer that. Don't answer that. I hate that as a question. So yeah, but you are going to eventually, do an album. And do you think for an album you might almost start afresh and come up with a conceptualized idea for that?
We're kind of we've demoed all the songs for it, to be honest.
Right.
So we've kind of with the timeline that we're working on at the moment. I mean, there will be more songs that come into play naturally. They do, line. But yeah, we've kind of this Easter was the first time that me and Russ got together since lockdown last year, since March properly. So we had a couple of days just recording, and we over the Easter holiday we basically demoed 10 tracks. It was almost like a track a day. And we've done them really quickly. There's a couple of them which are like really, really great. Probably some of the best things that we've done. And there is a very distinct sort of style to them.
Right.
Pet Sounds might have a lot to do with it, to be honest.
Right.
Because we've kind of invested in sort of vibraphones and orchestral percussion and all that sort of stuff. So
I can't wait to hear this now.
It's a different. It'll probably be about 2 years before you hear it, but it's basically
it's going to be worth the wait.
Yeah, it has a real kind of almost that kind of. We've been using some like baritone guitars and stuff, so there's a bit of that kind of Glenn Campbell, Wichita Lineman, type vibe, and orchestrations, and it'll take it in a different vein, but we'll still kind of, we'll still be true to what we do. There's some really good songs. I think this.
What you've got to promise me is you've got to get the name of that porter beer into one of the songs.
Yeah. Titanic Plum Porter.
Yeah, as part of a line somewhere.
Yeah.
Titanic Plum Porter. Yeah.
Well, we've got Estrella into one of the songs, but one of the tracks is called Estrella Fugaz, which is Spanish for a shooting star. So we've got.
So you've already got one beer in there.
Yeah, the more beer links we can get in, hopefully, the more sponsorship we.
The less beer you actually have to buy. Yeah. So
tremendous.
We've come full circle on this conversation.
We have. It's been a beautiful conversation to have, really, and somebody that's very like-minded. We're same era, and we'll definitely get that beer.
Great. So yeah, absolutely. So just so people know, all of this is available from Bandcamp. The next main release for you is July, is it?
Well, there's going to be there's going to be another track that will come out mid-June.
Right.
So we're going to keep that secretive.
Keep the pressure up
for a bit. We're not going to tell you what the title of that one is. That's a really great little kind of summer pop tune. So that goes back to our kind of almost kind of Loving Spoonful meets Madness meets XTC type vibe. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, nice.
And we're just kind of doing the video for that at the moment as well. Russ is a really brilliant animator. His day job is he works as a teacher, as a music and art teacher, but also he's got like a bit of an Etsy page for some of his art. And I've got him to animate some sections. So Gorsty are going kind of Mr. Ben full color animation for like the next video. And I've kind of in my downtime this week just been working on that. I've learned how to use iMovie. Who knew it was so easy to use?
Oh, it is so easy to use. I use it all the time. Yeah,
we did the last video for Bluebird. We did that video for Bluebird, and one of my favorite. I sent it to a friend of mine, and on the Starfield Skies bit, I just used like a picture. Another friend had done a picture for me, but it was very static. So my chap who I sent it to said, "Why don't you cut out some stars and put them in some water, and then create this like star image?" So I went one better and bought some stars from an online retailer, filled the bath up, and basically had fun in the bath with these stars. And that's part of like the in the video in kind of Bluebird. So as well as kind of writing the tracks, we're just kind of learning how to do stuff as well, and kind of, I suppose, promote ourselves. You know, every day is a school day in that respect. So
every day's a fun day as well, which is important, isn't it? Really,
every day above ground is every day above ground is a good day, as a quote from Apocalypse Now. So yeah, the next track will come out mid-June, and then from Langley Park to Memphis, from Prince's Park to Farsley will come out mid-July, and then we've literally finished volume 2. We're just kind of like prepping that last couple of mixes on that, and that'll be around November, and then we're going to do something in January as well. So watch this space.
Well, listen, sir, I can't wait to meet you in person and have that pint.
Yeah.
And it's been an absolute pleasure. So do go and check out on Bandcamp. Is it just under the Gorsley Lee Street Choir? It's
actually it's called 500 Broadcast. That's our little
500
label.
Broadcast. That's the thing to look for when you go
500 as in. And the little story there is that Russ has a Fiat 500, and I actually have one now as well. Not because it's a bromance. There's another story there. But when we get a mix, Russ goes, I'm going to put it on the 500 Broadcast, going to work, listening to the songs. So when we put the label, yeah, exactly, yeah. So now it's the MP3 or on his phone.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm listening to it on the 500 Broadcast. It sounds great. So when we thought we'll start putting things out, that was kind of the obvious name for the label, 500 Broadcast.
Yeah.
So
and we've given everybody almost a Wikipedia experience of the history of music this afternoon as well.
There's loads of things to check out. Yeah.
Everybody that's listening back is now going, Langley Park from Memphis.
Don't worry listening to our stuff. I mean, if you want to listen to our stuff, great. We're really proud of what we're doing, but go and check out all those other great artists.
Japan. He had a Lou Reed t-shirt on. What's that got to do with yeah.
I need to mention the Go-Betweens as well. They're one of my favourite bands from the 80s that are really underrated, and the Wooden Tops as well. So if anybody wants to check out
Wooden Tops,
see.
See, there you go. We have now got we've probably given you at least 2 or 3 weeks worth of music to go and investigate.
Yeah.
So do go and do that, everybody, because it will blow your minds. What better way to end a Friday? Thank you very much for joining me, Michael. And
thank you.
And when you speak to Mark next, tell him he's got to come on this show. We must get him on to talk about his music, because that guy must have a lot of fascinating stories to tell. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thanks, Graham.
Cheers.
Take care, my friend. Thank you.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Bye.